We'd like to welcome you to the Lynn Cancer Institute updates in 2025. We want you to know that this is important information for everyone coming from our survivorship series that we present throughout the year. We're very grateful that you all chose to spend your lunch hour with us and to learn from an esteemed member of our pastoral staff, Reverend Guillermo Escalona. Reverend Escalona will be educating us on thriving in survivorship, empowerment, engagement, and resilience, reminding us why just survive when you can thrive. Change your world by changing your heart. Commit to living a full life in the moment. Today, we will challenge ourselves to grow by cultivating the good, transforming conflict, and embracing the meaningful. Few notes before Reverend Escalona begins. The Reverend's bio was sent to you by email, and we invite you during his presentation to take notes. And if you have any questions or comments that you would like for him, please put them in the chat box or the Q&A box, and there'll be time at the end of the presentation for him to address any of your questions. So that being said, we're so proud to introduce Reverend Escalona to each of you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a joy to be with you. And we're going to consider this wonderful theme of thriving. Sometimes people will say, I'm surviving, and it's good. It's good to be surviving. But how wonderful to move a step beyond to thriving. And happiness, how do we get there? That's certainly a part of not only our survival, but our thriving. And sometimes we need to move from the head to the heart, and it's hard to feel and think at the same time. To be in a feeling place, open to the many wonderful things and people that surround us. It's reminiscent of a practice that the Navajo people have called walking in beauty. And they believe that when you are in harmony with yourself, with your surroundings, with your maker, you're walking in beauty. You're walking at peace. A smile reminiscent of Mother Teresa. Looks like this slide deck has a life of its own. A smile. Mother Teresa had this wonderful saying, a smile is the beginning of peace. The Awesome Power of the Listening Heart was a book that was written by one of my counseling professors in seminary. And it's a gift that if you could bottle it and sell it, you would be tremendously prosperous, because active listening, empathic listening, compassionate listening helps us to being, a better friend, a better parent, a better neighbor, just better all the way around. The great psychotherapist Carl Rogers and his person-centered therapy said that regardless of the therapeutic technique, if the person who is providing the care, and we can all provide care, whether from a professional standpoint or as lay people. And so if you can convey caring, listening, empathically, then transformation will happen, regardless of the technique being used. The power of acceptance, I'd say that's beyond tolerance, because you can tolerate at a distance, but acceptance requires proximity, intimacy, the possibility of friendship even. And to be, as Gandhi would put it, the change that you would like to see in the world, watch less, do more, to get up from the stands or the chairs in front of some kind of electronic device like a television, and actually be a helper, to do more for your own good and the sake of others. Remember the old children's show, Mr. Rogers? He said that I remember when he said that he was a little kid, and he would get worried that his mom would say, Freddie, look for the helpers. How wonderful to be among those who help. And then the power of appreciation, to be an ally. Vice has its accomplices. Virtue is always looking for allies. So to have an appreciation for what is well done, well said, well thought, is to become an ally to virtue, and we help to create a culture of compassionate excellence, if you will, and the fear less and love more. It's quite courageous to love, and especially your next door neighbor. And it's like the one fellow says, "I've got no problem loving the entire world. It's my next door neighbor that's giving me trouble." So, in terms of moving in the direction of thriving, a good question to ask is, what makes you happy? And then, are you happy? Um, remember the old song, "Don't worry, be happy." Out of positive psychology, well, this is a way of assessing from the standpoint of strength. Oftentimes, when we're providing care to others, and we're caregivers, whether we're family or friends, there are folks that we provide care for. If we were to evaluate or assess them, not with reference to what is wrong or needs to be fixed or transformed or changed in some fashion, but what is right. What is right, what they have to offer. It's a study of positive human strengths, traits, motives, virtues, behaviors, to be able to remind someone of what is right. And of course, the wonderful advice that we receive, whether we have a penny or Mr. Benjamin on the $100 bill, in God we trust, that there is an ultimate presence, someone greater than whatever our troubles might be, or our resources may be able to accomplish, that we can rely on, that we can trust, that we can go to for help, and that we can collaborate with as we try to make a difference in our environment. Martin Seligman, quite an interesting man, University of Pennsylvania. He had this epiphany with a 5-year-old daughter. As you can see, a few months after being elected president of the APA, American Psychological Association. So his little girl said, "Daddy, I want to talk to you." To which he responded, "Yes, Nikki. Daddy, do you remember before my 5th birthday? From the time I was 3 to the time I was 5, I decided not to whine anymore. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. And if I can stop whining, Daddy, I think you can stop being such a grouch." From a 5-year-old. So that birthed this positive psychology, which seeks to be a constructive resource, a catalyst to change from preoccupation with what needs to be repaired or what the worst things in life are, to building positive qualities. Martin Seligman. So, what are some of the topics around this field of positive psychology? Wonderful list there. Gratitude, meaning, forgiveness. Gratitude, thankfulness, how that can release tremendous healing power in terms of our psychosocial, spiritual, and even physical health. And I'm reminded of Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, one of the greatest books of the 20th century, written by this extraordinary neurologist, psychiatrist, who was a Holocaust, let me go back here, a Holocaust survivor. Cooperation, we're wired for community, and we need one another. And in cooperating, we find satisfaction with our relationships. The focus on what's virtuous, and what is right, um, to savor, very much like mindfulness, wherever you go, there you are, say the Buddhists, to be present in all the great religious traditions of the world. You have this emphasis on being fully available and engaged in the moment, to savor, to flow, to experience the happy moment. Now, there's been little research about positive emotions until this 2005 Harvard Medical School study. It examined the relationship between positive emotions and health. Whether positive emotion may protect against certain specific disease outcomes of hypertension, diabetes, respiratory tract infections. So it measured two emotions, hope and curiosity, and saw that they were derived uh, from two scaled traits. And they conducted this experiment with 5,500 people aged 55 to 69 in an urban and also suburban setting. And they made very meaningful discoveries. They mailed this questionnaire, and they were able to find higher levels of hope in with a decreased likelihood of having or developing a disease. Higher levels of curiosity were also associated with decreased likelihood of hypertension and diabetes. So this suggests that positive emotions may play a protective role in the development of disease. Oftentimes we hear the phrase, "You are what you eat," but these kinds of studies point to what we find in the book of Proverbs, um, that we also are what we think, and that there are healthy, uh, healthy, nutritious activities for the mind and the spirit, birthed out of curiosity and hopefulness. So there's a definition of thriving for you, growing and getting better at what one does, and a sense of vitality, feeling energized and alive. So a 20 years study by University of Michigan found that people who are positive and who uh, strive to and search for opportunities, take advantage of opportunities and openings to feel good, their thinking is more creative, flexible, integrative, open to information, and these the principles of empowerment, engagement, and resilience flourish in in the soil that is this positive um, focus. And then to empower, to the process of becoming stronger, more confident, especially in terms of guiding and directing one's life and claiming one's rights, opportunities, and possibilities. That when employees, to take it to the job field, feel more empowered, they're also more motivated to perform because they feel a sense of ownership. The wonderful Charlotte Bronte, in her work, Jane Eyre, I am no bird, and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will. That engagement, which drives outcomes, whatever that desired outcome might be, conducive to resilience, like the extraordinary palm trees that do not seem to be as strong as these stiffer trees with much larger trunks, how the palm trees can flow with the wind and the storm, that capacity to bounce back. Um, in other words, to take a sports analogy, you're a boxer and you're knocked down, but it doesn't mean that the canvas is where you belong or that you need to stay down. You have the opportunity, um, by God's grace, your efforts and the efforts of those who are rooting for you and helping with you to stand up and to move forward. And one thing that we could focus on perhaps is developing our own personal mission statement. You've got mission statements in terms of corporations and organizations, but how about a personal mission statement? What is your vision? What are your values? I think of spirituality, and it's universal. Unlike religion is not universal, but spirituality certainly is. What is peace to you? What is hope to you? What is love and grace and joy to you? And where do you find it? And how do you cultivate it? What are your ultimate values? The things that you treasure, which you use to measure everything else in your life. So Stephen Covey, his wonderful 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So direction, purpose, motivation in order to realize our potential. What is our best self? The persons that we are becoming. In clinical pastoral education, we speak in terms of what are our growing edges, the areas that we need to and should develop. Here we have Gandhi, a mission statement that impacted the world. Let the first act of every morning be to make the following resolve for the day. I shall not fear anyone on earth. I shall fear only God. I shall not bear ill will toward anyone. I shall not submit to injustice from anyone. I shall conquer untruth by truth, and in resisting untruth, I shall put up with all suffering. The wounded healer, our ability to empower our bodies, hearts, minds, souls, and spirits once more, bringing them into vital unity. The extraordinary opportunity that our woundedness can be conducive to greater empathy, and we can move beyond our innermost circle to then bless others with an empathic ear, with a listening heart, with a word of encouragement, with an act of kindness. And in that process, not only build community, but heal, comfort the wounded. A dynamic, this was coined by a nurse and developed also by chaplaincy, this idea of compassion fatigue, that wonderful compassionate people like those in the healthcare professions and other professions and other similar vocations, and loved ones in certain family groups that are extraordinarily compassionate. The fact that if you don't replenish, then your compassion well can become dry, and you might lose that wonderful quality that makes you the very special person that you are, a wounded healer, if you will, a healer that can bless in the midst of brokenness. So it's hard to work with water and not get wet, and it's hard to work with suffering and not be impacted by it. To observe it, to try to tend to it, and in terms of the illness of cancer, as you've experienced a measure of suffering, which is physical, with gratitude for the beautiful survival, which is an extraordinary blessing, a wonderful gift, and the result of multiple efforts by so many, including yourselves. That as you are exposed to the hurt in your history, in your social engagement, you become sensitive to what this feels like, and you can join others, in the telling of your story, in the power of your touch, in the soothing presence of your spirit, to be that friend that walks in when others feel very uncomfortable and would rather walk away. As you give of your time, of your talent, and your treasure. Um, in terms of compassion fatigue and what we go through, there are phases, the zealot phase, irritability phase, withdrawal phase, the zombie phase, they call it, when you can become so worn out if you don't go back to the well. Let me encourage a practice that I was asked to develop by the nurses at Baptist Hospital when they adopted Gene Watson as their caring theorist, and the caritas processes, the caring. Well, it's so important to engage in self-care. And when you board a plane and the flight attendant is giving the passengers instructions, notice they always say if the oxygen mask drop, to put it on first and then help others. It's so important to engage in self-care. A self-compassionate exercise would be to ask yourself, if you're going through a difficult time, if someone that I love very much were going through what I'm going through, what would I do for them? What would I say? What would I be about? And then ask yourself, are you doing the same for yourself? And if you're not, then why not? You're just as important and valued and appreciated as the ones that you love, for they also love you. And another practice, I would say, is the washing of hands. Sometimes people will say, well, I have no time to go from point A to point B and engage in this, that, and the other activity. I have no time for meditation. I have no time for prayer. I have no time for volunteering. Well, if you want to be healthy, you have to wash your hands. And we all wash our hands. So turn the hand washing into a ritual of self-compassion and healing. And as you wash your hands, you say, I wash my mind, my spirit, my soul, the totality of my being, from everything that distresses me, from everything that diminishes me, from everything that hurts me. I wash it, and down the drain that contagion goes, down the drain and away from me. Because there is physical bacteria which we wash away from our hands that can be very contagious and detrimental to us and to others. But there's also psychosocial and spiritual bacteria, if you will, that can rob us of our peace, of our hope, can rob us of kindness and goodness and mercy and grace. And we need to wash those things away and be cleansed so that we can be we can be as healthy as we possibly can be in body, mind, and spirit. And we can also be healthcare providers to others, within our own circles of influence, which we all have. From enough less to enoughness. Here's a thought. We all think we see the world as it is. We're wrong. We never see the world as it is. We always see the world as we are. Yeah, the worldview, the particular glasses, telescope, binoculars, eyes with which you view the world, the lens that you use. And so some principles for transformation, being honest with ourselves and taking ownership, of where we can improve, where we can grow, as opposed to the need to be right. So that we're engaging in conversation with someone who has a different worldview, different ideas, different beliefs, we can actually truly just listen to them, and perhaps we'll learn and we'll grow. As we communicate with this honesty and this empathy, there is transformation. They asked the great Carl Menninger, what is the greatest therapy? And he said the greatest therapy, in fact, famous psychiatrist, founder of the Manager Clinic, which for many years was in Topeka, Kansas. He said, the greatest therapy that I have found is if we are able to move beyond ourselves to help others. And in doing that, there is much healing to be found. When you change enough of your core beliefs about this is the way the world works, the cumulative effect is massive. Well, the possibility that there is something for us to learn from those who have other beliefs, and that they can help us to grow and to be stronger and healthier. So, what are your strengths? What are your virtues? How can you celebrate them? Moving towards authentic, I would say even unconditional happiness, a happiness that's greater than your environment, a happiness based in your psychosocial and spiritual virtues. So, concern about what is good and right and proper. And that survey done quite a while back with regards to youth, the learning of values, and the need to bring values education into public schools, and the cultivation of character. Can it be learned? Can it be developed? And the role that parents and schools play. Well, I remember Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream, where he said that my 4 little children would be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Well, can we grow and develop character? Well, you have a classification system. These are the studies that were done, and how these virtues and strengths contribute to fulfillment, have value. I mean, the most treasured possessions are intangibles: peace, love, joy, hope, goodness, kindness. They are priceless and cannot be purchased, but they live in relationships. It's interesting. I recently did some research and presented a lecture on the different generations, from the boomers, well, even before the boomers, the greatest generation, the silent generation, they call it, on to the other generations. And one of the foremost experts in the field said that regardless of the different generations and culture groups, that it continues to be the case that the greatest influencers are parents. What an extraordinary resource. And then out of that grow these meaningful stories, parables, and morality tales. And so these are conducive to joy. The virtues, a person of good character. And what are they? Wisdom and knowledge. Which wisdom would be knowledge wed to love, truth ways to love, and courage, the courage to walk in humanity, justice, temperance, transcendence, and then the character, the psychological ingredients that define the virtues, the virtue of justice displayed by the strength of being fair. And then moving to wisdom, right? Which is what patients look for in a healthcare setting. The competence is essential. And not only this, but family members, friends, neighbors, colleagues, right? Workers, knowledge, cognitive strengths. Do you have the intellectual capacity, the tools, um, the the awareness to get us to where we need to go? But then compassion on the way there. Do you truly care about me? Like that patient who came to our hospital many years ago, and when he was first admitted, he did not know, and we did not know that um, he would be discharged from a hospital to a hospice facility, that he was at in an end stage condition. And as he was about to leave our facility, he asked the question. He said, "Chaplain, could you do me one more favor?" And I answered, what is that, Al?" He said, "Would you remember my name? Would you remember my name?" You know, that you're not your illness, there's more, you're not your weakest dynamic. You are a person, and you have intrinsic worth and value, and you are to be treated with compassion and with kindness, um, with charity. And so wisdom and knowledge cultivated by creativity, by curiosity, by being open to learning, and open to the possibility that there is something that I need to learn, that I don't have all the answers. I may have a lot of questions, but I don't have all the answers. And then the love of learning. The love of learning is certainly the fruit of the love of people, because that learning comes from people and the created order. And then the courage, the emotional strength that involve the exercise of the will to accomplish what we need to accomplish in the midst of opposition. And we persevere, we persist, we do this with honesty, with authenticity, and with vigor, with enthusiasm. What a wonderful word, enthusiasm, from the Greek. And to be in Theos, God, to be in God, enthusiastic. And then to be fully human. Realize the difference between human beings and little turtles or tortoises. The tortoises, they hatch from their eggs, and they're so independent. They make their way to the seashore and they're off and swimming. But how vulnerable is the newborn human, and how needy of humanity. And we continue to be vulnerable, and we continue to need the community. Think about the thousands of people involved in bringing a plate of food to your table, in agriculture, in transportation, in markets, um, and along with that, the plates, the silverware, the table, the chair. So many people. And so we're wired for community, and we should cultivate this community, which is such a rainbow of diversity in humanity, with each providing something that's conducive and constructive to thriving, not only to our survival, but to thriving. It's not only food, but it's food that, food, survival, thriving. Oh boy, delightful to the palate, truly nourishing to the body, conducive to sharing. And so justice, um, that kindness and consideration, that civility, that it's conducive to not only healthy individuals, but healthy families, healthy neighborhoods, healthy cities and states and nations, and to assume the responsibility to do it with fairness, and to be willing to lead. And we all have circles of influence. There's an annual event that Pastoral Care um, uh, champions, and it's called the Global Leadership Summit, and it integrates spirituality and the virtues to leadership, and it discovers and helps us to become aware of the fact that we all lead in some capacity, because we're all influencers. whether it's a big circle or a smaller circle or a number of circles. So, yeah, forgiveness and mercy, how important that is. How important that is. When the forgiveness is lacking, when mercy is lacking, there is a pain that manifests that even the best chemistry can't quite reach it, because it's deeper than the physical, then leading, of course, to the transcendent. What connects us to the larger universe and provides meaning, like the wonderful Navajo people and their walking in beauty, and in harmony with yourself, with others, and then to appreciate it. How wonderful to have eyes to see that wherever you go, whatever the community, there is beauty to be found. One of my son-in-laws was career military, United States Marine Corps, over 20 years, and deployed 4 times. And he trained for desert warfare and then was a trainer for those who engage in desert warfare. And they would train out in the desert out west California. And it was desert, it was arid. Upon first experiencing it, you would think that there wasn't much life there. One of the wives wrote to her mother complaining that she just was so unhappy to be in that place, that there was nothing of value that she could perceive there. And so a long letter of complaint. Her mother wrote back a very short letter. It was just a question, really. She wrote, 2 women looked out the same window. One of them saw mud and the other saw stars. Which of these 2 women do you wish to be? So it got her to thinking. And she said, maybe I should give the desert another chance. And she began to go out into the desert and to look for life in the desert. And she found that there's flora and there's fauna in the desert. And there's people who belong to the desert and flourish in the desert. And slowly but surely, she began to fall in love with the desert. She even wrote a book about the desert and engaged in a lecture tour about the desert. The appreciation of beauty and excellence, awe, wonder, elevation, to be found wherever you are. And then how conducive that is to gratitude, and then how gratitude feeds that hope, that optimism, that faith that there is a future and that there are possibilities that are wonderful for that future. Humor, one of the most wonderful things that you can do that's conducive not only to surviving, which thank God for survival, but also to thriving, is playfulness. To give yourself permission to recreate, right? Recreation, to play with children, to play with adults, and to find that happiness again that perhaps you experienced as a child. And then spirituality in terms of a faith, religion, religare, to bind together, community, and faith, which we need for everything, whether it's healthcare, faith in our healthcare providers, faith in the capacity of our bodies to respond, faith in our own ability, and a sense of purpose, where is it that I'm going? So think about, as you look at yourself in a psychosocial spiritual mirror, if you will, what are your strengths? What are your strengths? What is the core of who you are, right? And what are your best resources? People, in terms of positivity, take a look at Fredrickson. People experiencing positive affect show patterns of thought that are notably flexible, creative, integrative, open to information, and efficient. In general terms, positive affect produces a broad, flexible cognitive organization and ability to integrate diverse material. In other words, you learn, you grow, you become stronger when you see the other, the different, the unusual as an opportunity to learn and to grow, to adapt, and to become stronger. And there's research in in this, there's a happy owl for you. How the change of emotion actually affects your biochemistry and affects your heart rate, the body. Haven't you ever engaged in an activity, whether it's a physical activity or mental, spiritual activity, and you feel your body saying, thank you? I remember when I was riding bike. I have very severe arthritis. I'm not able to ride bicycle at this time. But I remember how when I rode the bike, oh my gosh, it was as if my body was saying thank you, or just a simple stretch. Someone taught us along the way that it was impolite, but little kids will stretch. And I've got this little dog, a Chihuahua. She's 14 years old, and she's so full of vigor. I notice she always stretches before she gets going, right? Um, wow, to look for that happy place, that thing that brings us joy, to look for that which is good and beautiful and right and virtuous, and to think about that, to take a mental vacation from the negative information, to visit on this vacation in our minds, in our spirits, in our hearts, that which is truly beautiful, whether that's to be found in a museum, an art gallery, a concert, a seashore, or a mountain range. And in Florida, we may not have the typical mountain range made of rocks and sand and pine trees and so forth. Our mountain ranges are in the sky. They're clouds, and they're new every day. And just to delight in that, like the psalmist wrote, I shall look to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the one who made the heavens and the earth. Barbara Fredrickson, my message here is that gratuitous negativity can hold you hostage, as if you had cinder blocks tied to your ankles and a black hood pulled over your face. It can keep you so constrained and smothered that you are simply unable to flourish. But the good news is that you have what it takes to free yourself. In terms of forgiveness, I'm reminded of and freedom. Nelson Mandela, he was asked by one of our presidents years ago, how were you able to forgive? 20 years of unjust incarceration. How could you forgive? How could you reconcile your country? And he said, well, I left the prison after 20 plus years of captivity. I realized that if I didn't forgive, I would still be in prison, even though I was physically free. So when you forgive, you set two people free, the person that you've forgiven and yourself. It's so healthy, so conducive to thriving. And so decreasing the negative inputs, the little no joy allowed, Are you exposed to chronic negativity? What are your trauma inputs? And when you wake up in the morning, are you tapping into negative information? We all do well to be informed, and the news media and so forth, and that's out there. But can we tap into a beautiful novel, a beautiful poem, a beautiful work of art, a beautiful tree, a beautiful flower, beautiful cat or bird or dog, or beautiful sky or seascape? And can we engage in the celebration of that which is right and virtuous and beautiful? You might even want to write an email to someone that could use affirmation, celebration, and praise. You'd be surprised at how little praise is spread about and shared with those who need encouragement. The next time, we often will say to a military man or woman, thank you for your service. But how about saying that to a police officer or a fireman or a teacher or the extraordinary people that come and pick up our trash? Thank you for your service. The people who have blessed you in your life, to pick up that phone, to make that call, make that visit, send that text in appreciation, to people who are in positions of leadership. And and that way decrease our exposure to that negative gossip, which poisons the wells of our mind and our spirits, to break the pattern of that negative self-talk and rumination. If you have fallen, if you have gotten yourself into a pickle, as they say, take it as an opportunity to grow and to learn and to be stronger, as the great writer from Great Britain of the 19th century, Oscar Wilde, said, "Experience is the name we give to our mistakes." This can be our teacher. This is how we can grow, and to forgive ourselves and then forgive each other. And so to take a break, breathe, and break that pattern of rumination. You can stop, visualize even a red stop sign. If you're engaged in that negative self-talk or rumination, a big red stop sign, and visualize that, imagine that. And then go to your breath. And as you inhale, you say, I inhale compassion to my entire being, to every cell, to every vessel, to every tissue, to my mind, to my spirit. I inhale compassion. I inhale compassion. And as you exhale, you could say, I exhale all stress, I exhale all negativity. But let the exhale also be about compassion. I exhale compassion to everyone in this room that surrounds me, to everyone that I am engaged and connected to. I exhale that same compassion that I have inhaled, so that even your breathing is an exercise in self-care and in the care of others. And as you walk into different spaces throughout your day, you don't have to say this out loud, but in your own mind, in your own spirit, you can bless people. I wish you peace. I wish you love. I wish you wellness. I wish for you healing. I wish for you grace. I wish for you prosperity and abundance. If you walk into spaces with that thought in your mind, with that energy in your spirit, it'll transform the spaces into which you walk, and it'll touch the people. And we begin to become the kind of person that brings joy and peace and grace and love wherever we enter, whether we speak or we don't speak, because we carry it with us. And so people are happy to see us. There are folks that make you happy when they arrive, and there are folks that make you happy as soon as they leave. We want to strive to be the folk that bring happiness upon arrival. It was, he had such a way with words, which is quite an understatement. Mark Twain said, be the kind of person that when you pass away, even the undertaker will be sorry that you're gone. What an opportunity life is to plant something other than what we see in this image. The transformation of conflict, meaningful work in conflict resolution and peacemaking, to be secure enough to invite someone who thinks different, who believes different, who acts different, and to seek understanding and to build bridges. I had a mentor named Tom Skinner, extraordinary man. And he had been a preacher, but he evolved. He continued to preach and to talk and to give, lectures that inspire. But his primary mission in life was to get people who are different to just sit together in a room without an agenda and just engage in conversation, to get to know each other as people, and how that humanizes the engagement from human being to human being, And so to be secure enough to engage others who may have something to contribute, and so debate the issue, but not the person, and to let go of the need to be right, of the need to win. So conflict, it's natural. It happens all the time. It's neither, you could say it's neither positive nor negative. It's an interference. Nature uses conflict, like storms, hurricanes and so forth, to change. It creates beautiful beaches, canyons, mountains, pearls. Nature channels conflict that way. It's not whether you have conflict in your life, it's practically unavoidable. It's how you engage in that conflict. It's what you do with that conflict that makes a difference. And I'm reminded this image of Jacob wrestling the angel. You know, Israel, the people who wrestle with God. I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. Imagine that someone who is in the opposition. I remember what they used to call the greatest rivalry in sports, Wilt Chamberlain in basketball, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. And when Chamberlain died, someone said to Bill Russell, said, "Mr. Russell, you were the great adversaries. You were great. You were engaged in a tremendous rivalry." And Bill Russell said, "We weren't rivals. We were competitors. We were competitors." Because you see, in a rivalry, you have the victor and you have the vanquished, but Wilt was never vanquished. Wilt was also a champion. Wilt was a great man, and Wilt was my friend. We weren't rivals. We were competitors. He made me a better basketball player. And so the nephew, Wilt, who was a lifelong bachelor, it was up to his nephew to invite people to the funeral. And guess who number 2 on the list of the people that Wilt wanted at his funeral? It was Bill Russell, his opponent from years ago, and his friend. So bounce back. You may be on the canvas, but that's not where you need to live. That's not where you're going to build your house. You may be walking through the valley of the shadow of death, as it says in the 23rd Psalm, but that's not where you're going to build your property. You know, find that place inside of you that's greater than what's going on outside. I'd say that sacred temple where you can close your eyes and just imagine the most beautiful, healing, delightful, peaceful place in all creation. And just stay there in your imagination for a little while and look at what's at a distance and what's close up, what's above, what's down, the aromas, the sights, the sounds, the flavor of this place, your own special place, this kingdom of goodness that lives inside of you, of beauty, of grace, and savor the goodness. Develop a savoring account, the power of having and expressing gratitude, cultivating kindness in your heart. Barbara Fredrickson again, by disputing your negative thoughts, you don't suppress them, push them out of mind, or whitewash them. Instead, as you check them against reality, you literally dissolve them. It's not all ugliness. There is beauty. And even natural adversaries can become friends. They asked the great Abraham Lincoln, "Mr. Lincoln, you've appointed this man to your cabinet. Who is your adversary?" "What in the world moved you to do that, Mr. President?" Lincoln said, "He is the best person for the job. Our nation needs the best." And then he added, "And if I can make of my adversary my friend, have I not defeated my adversary?" So again, 10 forms of positivity: hope, belief that things can change and that you can inspire a better future. Pride, in the best sense of the term, appropriate pride versus egoism, specific, tempered, amusement, non-serious, social incongruity, contagious inspiration, permission to laugh, inspiration warms the heart, draws you in. The beautiful stories, the beautiful people, the heroes that we've experienced in our lives. I've got a picture right here of Martin Luther King Jr. with his eyes closed and his hands clasped together. And there's a serenity there. At his core, this great spiritual being, living every day under constant criticism and the threat of death, he was able to find that place of peace right in his heart and to be there for a time and then to stand up and make a difference. Gratitude, awe, to be overwhelmed by greatness. Oh my goodness, there is greatness larger than us. And then this serenity, this inner lightness, this energy, this playfulness, right? To be grateful. It opens the heart. This opens the heart with an urge to give back. Gratitude, versus indebtedness, no gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for saying that. And then serenity, when you feel safe, receptive, reflective, to quiet your mind, to quiet your spirit. And then interest, right? It draws attention, new challenges. Oh boy, let me pause for a second and take this in. So we're coming to an end of our time here. Love, the multiplicity of that love, changes the body chemistry. And variations of the Greeks are so rich in that storge, that familial love, phileo, the love of friendship, eros, the romantic love, chocolates and colognes and dancing, right? And then agapeo, this love that I can't help but love because I'm full of love. And wherever I go, love goes. And love just walked into this room because a lover just arrived. And it doesn't require reciprocity. You know, it just is. The analogy would be, let's say, a mango tree. It doesn't do a background check before it lets you have its mangoes, right? It doesn't discriminate. The mangoes are there, and it doesn't impose itself. The mangoes are there. For it is a mango tree. It is what it is, and the shade is there for everyone. Love. So, Gandhi, excuse me. Keep your thoughts positive, because your thoughts become your words. Keep your words positive, because your words become your behavior. Keep your behavior positive, because your behavior becomes your habits. Keep your habits positive, because your habits become your values. Keep your values positive, because your values become your destiny. So, the search for meaning. What is the meaning that you can find? What is the great need? You know, where is your passion? Where is your voice? You have talent, you have gifts, you have abilities, you make a difference, you are needed in this world. Be fully who you are and use your talent to bless others. I remember a volunteer that I had, Simha. He's now a director of pastoral care up in New York. And he said one time, Chaplain, there was this man in a wheelchair. And please forgive me, I didn't visit 10, 15 people as was my intention. I spent my entire time just wheeling this man about everywhere that he needed to go today at Baptist Hospital. And I say, Simba, extraordinary. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. What greater thing could you have done, right? A mitzvah, right? A a kindness, and find your voice, you know, and may your voice bring harmony and beauty and grace, like the wonderful opera singers and other gifted musicians. So vocation, um, calling, vocare, what you're passionate about, your calling, your purpose, what the world needs. The great Mark Twain again. The two greatest days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you found out why. So, survival, thank God. What a blessing to survive. And then the next step, I can thrive. I can thrive. In the midst of this, I can thrive. I can be fully who I am and thrive. I can know peace. I can know hope. I can know joy. I can know love. And I can give out of the overflowing of this cup as I thrive. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that this has been helpful. And I wish you all the best. May you continue to thrive in all that you do.
Thank you, Reverend Escalona. I think we all learned so much from you today, and we're so grateful. I like what you said about the mental vacation. I think we just did that for about an hour. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. Always available. Blessings to all. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful day.
And to you too.
Thank you.
I want everyone in the audience to know that our lectures are all recorded. So if you want to listen to this again, if you have someone that you'd like to share it with, just let us know. And by probably the beginning of next week. It should be edited and ready for us to send out in a link. You'll be getting an evaluation from Lee. So we appreciate it if you would fill that out, send it back to us. And at that time, you could request the link if you'd like to pass this on. And we just want to give you a quick note on the rest of our April offerings. On April 9th, from our nutrition series, we're going to have a culinary pharmacy with Marie Miranda. On April 11th, our physician series on head and neck cancers. And the speakers will be Doctors Glon, Taylor, and Matthew, and our dietitian, Brandy Hyatt. On April 16th, it will be the power of advanced care planning. That happens to be Advanced Directives Recognition Day. And our speakers will be our social workers, Elsa Rayner and Ann Williams-Nicholas. And on April 23rd, the power of ethical wills, that will be presented by Rabbi Marcy Block from Trustbridge Health. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a great afternoon.